There's a cat over here. There's a cat over there. And the wrong one died. And the wrong one died.
Welcome to The Wrong Cat Died, the podcast breakdown of the catastrophe. I'm your host, Mike Abrams, and today we have another amazing guest. She was the dance captain for the 2016 Broadway revival of Cats, and she was a swing covering Cassandra, Bombalurina, Tantamile, Victoria, and Electra. So welcome, Claire Camp, and thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me, Mike Abrams.
I cannot wait to talk about the dance captain piece because that to me seems... it's just a foreign concept. So I have a lot of questions there. But before we do that, I love to start with your Cats history. So I'd love to hear, before the 2016 revival, had you seen it? How familiar you were with it? Did you do a junior high school production? Like, what was your backstory with Cats?
I didn't grow up with Cats. I was like a newbie to Cats later on. There was a girl in my ballet class. Every Halloween, we could wear a Halloween ballet outfit. So like a leotard and tights, but a costume. And she somehow had a connection to a family member that worked in costumes for Cats and had the Victoria unitard. And so she came to ballet class. This is when I was probably like 12 or 13 in the Victoria white cat unitard. And I remember looking at it, and that was my introduction to Cats, being like, that's really cool. You look awesome in that. I want something like that. And then later, when I officially moved to the city in 2011, I think it was, Cats was my first job. So I did 2 productions of Cats before Broadway, 2 like regional.
Tell me more. Where were those productions? That's not on your Cats Wikipedia page. I think we're gonna have to update that.
Yeah.
Tell me about the regional productions. Where were they? Who were you?
That's when I truly first fell in love with Cats. I should start by saying that I'm obsessed with Cats. Like, I'm that person. And like, my friends who know me would laugh because they know that I'm always bringing up Cats. Like, even before Broadway was a thing, I would tell people what cat they were. So yeah, and I fell in love the first job, which was at a theater called Cahoe's Music Hall.
Where is Cahoe's Music Hall?
It's like near Albany, I think. Yeah, it was near Albany. And it was like, I went on a website called Answers for Dancers, and I was just trying to work. Like, I was just trying to make some money being a dancer. And I went to school at Purchase for modern and ballet. So I really had like little experience with musical theater, but I had a love for it. And I didn't know about Cats, but I knew that it involved unitards and it involved dancers. And so I was like, I'd be right for that. So I showed up to an audition and I wore a unitard and I danced for Cahoe's Music Hall's production of Cats. And Jacob Brent actually was the director, choreographer, who, I don't know if you know who Jacob Brent is, but he was the Mistopheles in the 90s movie.
Okay.
Yeah, celebrity. And I didn't know that at the time, but he's like awesome. He's magical Mr. Mistopheles. So, okay, yeah, I got to stay on track. So then I auditioned, and it was like, yeah, I could do it. And I remember them looking at me, and I had to sing after, and I'm pretty sure I didn't have sheet music or clothes. Like, I kept my unitard on when I sang, and I realized later that was like a big no-no. Like, usually people change, but I just put on my red Converse. I had high top red Converse, and Jacob, the director, was wearing red Converse as well. And he was like, I like your shoes. And I was like, thanks. And then I got an email, and they asked me to play Cassandra, which is the brown long cat You know who Cassandra is,
I
right?
do.
After
I
50
do.
episodes.
I've picked up a lot of the characters now and have a pretty good idea about most of them.
Okay.
But yes, you play. Okay, so you're in the Cahoots Regional Theater near Albany.
Cahoos. I don't even know how to say it.
All
But
the above.
it was like a tiny theater, and I'm pretty sure I got paid like $300 a week, but it was like bliss. It was amazing. Like it's
First
when
job.
I truly fell in love. Yeah. With cats and with musical theater.
I love it. So you're at Regional Theater. How long did that run? How long did you do that production?
Oh God. Not very long. It was like, they had a season of shows, and they brought us all in for cats. And I think it was like 4 weeks, maybe. I'm guessing.
Okay.
But a lot of the tour people were in that production. So I met a lot of the tour cats people who were on the national tour. And they were a little like, we know cats. Like, who are you? And I knew nothing about cats, but quickly I like caught on.
And then you moved to, when was the second production? So
the second production was not that long after, and it was also directed and choreographed by Jacob Brent. And it was like original. He set the original choreography. So like Jillian Lynn's choreography on us, which was awesome. And this was at Gateway Playhouse in Bellport, New York. I think it's New York. It's like this cool small theater. It feels like summer camp, really. It's like Cats Camp. And so Jacob did that as well. And I was Cassandra again. So I like really am feeling close to Cassandra. And I was thrilled to do it. I had just got my equity card prior to that production, but they didn't want to hire a equity member. I don't know if you know what that means. So like a union member. I've
learned a little. I've picked up some things along the way of this podcast.
Technically I like illegally was Cassandra because I was non-equity, because I was like, I don't care if you pay me like nothing. I just want to do cats. Like I just want to do cats again at Gateway. And it was awesome. And it ended up being like a really special time in my life where I feel like I elevated my skill set. And I remember the New York Times reviewed us because Ken Page was our old Deuteronomy, and he was also in the movie.
Yeah.
So it was nice. And I got a little write-up, and I remember being like, oh my gosh, like they recognized my Cassandra, because she's kind of like a side cat. She's not like a main.
Mm-hmm. What did they tell you? What did Jacob tell you about like the backstory of Cassandra? Because that's one that I actually had a question for you, because there's not a ton about her story, because it is a side cat. It's not one of the ones that's like as clearly defined. So I'm curious what you were given to work from.
Well, she can be defined if you really go for it. I feel like people notice her when they see the show. They're like, who is that brown cat? And Emily Pynenberg played her on Broadway and was just like absolutely stunning. And like, you just couldn't keep your eyes off of her. So I feel like Cassandra has more power. Yes, she doesn't have like a song, and we don't scream her name over and over again, but like she has a lot of, she has a lot of weight to her. And I would describe her, well, about the 3 words. So like every time I did a production, I would get 3 words, and I'm pretty sure they were different every time, which is interesting. But I remember some of the words being psychic, regal, clairvoyant. I was told by Jacob, who was directed by Jillian, like the original team, that she was almost timeless. Like she was ageless. She wasn't a house cat. So she wasn't like a cat. She was just kind of like there, and very wise, and kind of not above, but like can't be bothered with the kid stuff, like can't be bothered with Bomb and Demeter. Like I think she's a little more refined and doesn't need all that attention. She just like, she's glamorous and
so she's kind of the cat that's a big part of the Jellicle tribe, but not really the one trying to steal the show, not really the one trying to get involved with all the mess. She's just there. She's kind of keeping everything together a little bit without anybody knowing it. She
doesn't need her own number. She's just like is there. But Misto does like use her as like a kind of Vanna White moment for his magic trick. And that's like fun for her, I would say. Like she's like, okay, I'll play along. But I would say she's kind of above, like she's very wise and she also sees the future. So she can, I sound crazy and I'm aware of that, but like, this is what happens when I talk about cats. She sees the future and she's very connected to Tantamile and Coricapat.
Who are like psychic.
Yeah. So like I would say the three of them have this kind of like trio energy where they sense what's coming next and have visions.
Tantamile and Coricapat. Those two, Coricapat. I never could say the names. Half the names. Honestly, I was reading Coricapat. I can't even say it. We're just gonna forget it.
It's okay.
The twins. Yeah. The more I've heard about them, the more I kind of want to watch just to see like what they do the whole time. Like that's where there are super fans who go and see watch one cat the whole time or go a lot. Yeah. And I don't remember anything about them. And then the more I've heard about them, I'm just like, oh, this seems like almost like the twins from the movie, like the horror movie, The Ring. That's kind of the vibe I get from them. It's just like
there's twins in The Ring.
Isn't that The Ring?
You mean The Shining?
The Shining. That's what I'm thinking.
Yes, yeah. That's one of my favorite movies.
That's the two. That's the vibe I get from those cats now.
Yeah, they're a little creepy. They
so
can
I didn't realize that Cassandra's part of that. She's also kind of with them in the psychic world. Everything I'm saying like is my interpretation. And I also think like Jacob fed me that. Jacob Brent, my director for the first two regional productions, who's amazing. He kind of fed me that information. I remember just being like, these three cats, and you can tell that they all have similar wigs. Like they're like the only cats that are slicked back hair, not like just like straight out. And they have this kind of maturity, and Cassandra's older than Tantamile and Coricapat, but like there's this like spirituality to them. Mm-hmm. Are they all three related?
They could be. I mean, it's like whatever serves your story if you're playing the part. I never thought that Cassandra was related to anyone. I think she's just like 1,000 years old and she never ages and she's fabulous.
I like that. So doesn't want to be the Jellicle choice. Enjoys being
she doesn't
there.
Need to be. She's just like there to support and to observe and like guide and just be fabulous. Like she's truly a diva cat, but not in the way that Bomb Ballerina is.
Or Grizabella?
Yeah. Very different than those.
Okay. Let's move from regional theaters. Okay. You're not in the city. What was
the big city?
What was the experience on Broadway? Especially being the dance captain. What was that? Being able to bring some of that experience to the revival.
Well, I was already in love with cats from doing those productions, so it was kind of wild hearing that Cats was coming to Broadway because, my stomach just dropped and I was like, it's like when you have to be a part of something, like you hear about a job and you're like, I need to be in this. So it was kind of intense auditioning for it, like the pre-talk. And I was in Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat, which is another Andrew Lloyd Webber musical. And I was on tour with that, and Andy Blankenbuehler was the choreographer of that. So I remember at a like Joseph cast party doing my thing where I'm telling people what cats they are. And he's looking at me like, do you know something? And I'm like, what are you talking about? You're Skimbleshanks. Like, and I had no clue that he was like talking, you know, about cats coming to Broadway. So at one point on the tour, he came up to me and he's like, I have something to tell you. Like, Cats is coming to Broadway. And I was just like, oh my God. And I didn't know if that meant I was like going to be in it or how I was going to be a part of it, but I just knew it was coming. And it was like the most exciting thing. And he ended up asking me to assist him with auditions, running the auditions. Or we met and I actually taught him some of Copeland, which is like the original choreography, because I told him I know the original choreography thanks to Jacob Brent. And it was wild. And Jillian and Chrissy Cartwright were not even in the picture. So not any of the original people were not in the picture yet. But he created a little bit of his stuff plus the original for this audition. And I assisted him in auditioning, but I didn't know if I was going to be in it yet. So it was this weird place of like, I'm helping him with these auditions. I want to be in it. I don't know if I'm going to be in it. I'm seeing these people audition, but like, regardless, it was a special time because I loved cats and, you know, the ball was rolling. But obviously, because I had played Cassandra twice before, I had the assumption that I would play Cassandra in the Broadway revival. So I got the offer for a swing, not the dance captain yet, but a swing, which would be, it was my Broadway debut. It was my swing debut.
And you learned 5 parts.
Yeah. So at first,
6
I think
parts.
he said something.
Parts.
Sick. Yeah, I don't know. But basically, I think at first he was like, you'll have to cover 3 parts. And I was like, oh, that's not bad. I think initially I was kind of pissed. I was like, wait, what? Like, I'm obviously thankful to get a Broadway show, but I had this like kind of perfect scenario expectation set up where I would play Cassandra on Broadway, because that's the only part I can play. Like that's the part
that's
I
what you
like.
knew, and
yeah. And so when they asked me to be a swing, I was like, wait, I can't do that. Also, like, to be a swing, you have to be so sharp. You know, you have to be so smart. And I was like, I can't do that. Like, that's not me. But I ended up doing it. And then they later asked me to be the dance captain, co-dance captain. So it ended up being a very different journey, but like, I'm so happy that that's how it ended up. I'm like thankful that that's how it happened, because I ended up getting a lot more from it. If I had just been Cassandra, like, I think that would have been nice, but it wouldn't have changed me as much.
Yeah. I want to ask about the dance captain, because I have heard the term and I kind of have a loose understanding of what it means.
Yeah.
But tell me a little bit about, like, what does dance captain really actually mean? And then what does it mean in a show that's so dance heavy? You know, like, is it, like, it's a very dance heavy show that's, you know, the plot's loose. So it's more about the dance and the singing. So tell me a little bit about that experience.
Well, I didn't know what a dance captain really did, and I was asked to be it. So that was interesting. I kind of see it like a manager. You know how, like, you have managers in your world, and like you were saying, you have like a meeting tomorrow, or like someone like hosts a meeting and is like in charge. I feel like the dance captain is kind of like that, in the sense that they're they're not like the boss, but they are the managers
Like a
under the
team.
choreographer, under the associate, under the director. They maintain and they make sure that the show keeps running. So like they're also in charge of teaching. So if someone were to get injured or sick, they need to teach the new person. So like a lot of the times we would have a new cast member and it would be like, hi, welcome to Cats. Here are your 3 words. And like you would start from the beginning. And thankfully I had a team of amazing people working with me and I was working with them. It wasn't just me. Like some shows it's like just one person and it's incredibly overwhelming. But we had a team of 2 dance captains and an associate choreographer, and we all worked together to maintain this show and keep it going.
So did you have to basically learn all dance tracks? Like to train people, did you have to be able to do all the numbers?
Technically that would have been my job, but
technically, in theory,
yes, the dance captain should know the answer to every question, should know every track, should always just be right and know. But in this production, it felt like we were always playing catch up. Like it was like the first preview and we still didn't know what was happening because there's so many changes that happen along the way, especially in a preview before opening. So we really helped each other. So like 3 of us would know certain tracks really well. I mean, one person would know like 5 tracks really well, and I would know 6 tracks really well. And Corey, my co-dance captain, would know like all the men tracks really well. And we would share with each other information. And eventually you learn, and like you get more information. But to start, we were really like, okay, these are your tracks, these are your tracks, these are your tracks. And we would help each other communicate to the cast basically what needed to get communicated, if that makes sense.
It does. It's just like it's the same thing as a swing where you're learning 5 different where you need to be, the whole, like everything. Just the idea of knowing all the characters or even half the characters or that many for every step of a multiple 2.5 hour plus show. It's very complex with like most of the characters are on the stage a lot of the time. Doing a lot of different things. You're in the crowd part of the time. Like it's just a lot. And I can't imagine.
The best way to know Cats. The best way to know Cats we learned was to go from beginning to end for each cat. And sometimes it lines up with other cats, but like most shows you just kind of look at it as a whole. But with Cats, like everyone has their own journey. And there are some steps that line up, like I said, but it was easiest for me, at least, to start with one track, check it off, go to the next track, check it off, and then review if I needed to, like if I was teaching it again.
So how would you tell, having done journey to journey to journey, how would you intertwine them and tell the story? Like if someone asked you, I'm going to go see it, what am I going to go see? How would you tell them what the plot they're going to go see and what to expect?
Well, this like makes me think of what I told Jeremy Davis, who was the Skimbleshanks in the revival, who is a friend of mine from like, I did a show with him prior to Cats. And I also did Frozen with him. But I really admire him. And I knew that Andy wanted to cast him as Skimble. And we both realized we were in the show and it was very exciting in the revival. And I texted him and I said, it's so dramatic. I texted him and I said, this show will change your life if you let it, period. And I still stand by that comment. If you're watching it, it's also like, it depends on who you're watching. Like if you're watching a bomb ass cast and they're all really invested and they really care about you taking something from it, you're going to have a different experience than watching a show where people are like half-assed. You know, it's like that's kind of the power of theater. Like your experience of watching it is going to be very different than my experience or someone else. Like it's not, we like to say it's consistent. It's not very consistent. So what I'm saying is like, I think anyone who would go to see Cats, I would say be open to it.
It's going to change your life.
That's so dramatic, but like, that's how I feel. Like it will change your life if you let it. But to be fair, I don't really know what it would be like to be you and see Cats, not knowing anything about it and just watching it. Like I can imagine that being pretty hard. Like I fell in love with Cats from the inside out. So I have a very different relationship with it, an obsession with it, than someone who would just like go see Cats. Like I'm sure that they see that shit and they're like, what the fuck is this? Sorry, I shouldn't swear, but you know what I'm saying? Like
I do.
It's a little loony, but to me, I'm like, it has so much meaning. It has so much meaning.
It definitely changed my life, but not in the way I was expecting it to. And I don't think in the way you were telling people it's going to. I don't think most people walk out and end up with a podcast 50 episodes later about Cats.
Obviously, it made an impact on you.
It did. I don't think it would have, like, I would have walked out and said, oh, that changed my life.
Okay.
But I think it depends on, I saw the second to last preview you did.
Okay, yeah. We weren't ready.
And then I saw it a year later, almost to the date.
Okay.
And those were my 2 live showings ever of seeing it. The only 2 times I've ever seen it live. And then the movie, the 1998 movie on a plane, and a few other like sporadic YouTube viewings. But that's it. So I saw second last preview, which I was told I did learn at that time. That was where I learned that previews, there are a lot of changes to the dance numbers.
Many, yeah, like
and
that
then someone
day
said, but second to last preview, it should be locked by now. So that was something told me before the show started. This was from someone who has at least some knowledge on theater, not someone from the show. And then a year later, I just was like, I don't remember that much. I just remember it being a little weird and strange, and there was no story. So I was hoping to try to piece together more of the story the second time, and I didn't get any closer.
Yeah.
But I do think it is a polarizing show in the sense that it's so unlike most of the rest of what you would see on Broadway that it's a different experience. And I think it's why people either love it or hate it. There's not a middle. There's not like anybody that walks out. It's like they either had a very pleasant and wild experience, or it wasn't their cup of tea and they moved on.
Yeah.
And no one I've talked to that is in that bucket of people can give a reason why. No one who hates it has given me like a real reason why they hate it.
Yeah. I guess I can understand. Like I was listening to it earlier because we're doing this podcast, and I was like, A, it gives me excuse to listen to Cats in my apartment and not feel embarrassed about it. But B, it's like I wanted to refresh what it is, right? Like I wanted to refresh that feeling when I hear the music. And I was listening to some of the music and I was like, this is very harsh on the ears. Like it's beautiful in moments, but it's like sometimes it's like Jellicle Cats are queens of the night. And it's like very harsh, and like I can imagine people who just don't like musical theater being like, oh my God, like what is this? So I respect that. I do. Like if it's not someone's cup of tea, I totally get why. But I'm just like, you weren't open to it.
Yeah, you I think, okay. I do want to go, I want to hear your, like you said that there's a lot of depth to it. I want to hear a little bit about your take on like where that depth is. But before I do that, you've said this twice now, and I'm not going to let you off the hook, but it sounds like your party trick is that you tell people what cat they're going to be.
Okay, yeah.
How did that start, and how is that received when someone, like, do people generally follow along, or do you say it to somebody who's like, I've never seen Cats, and you're just like, yep, you're definitely a skimble?
Well, I don't know. It kind of started within my musical, like more musical, like, because Cats was my first show. I was kind of amazed that the casting was so like Jacob cast it so well, and I was like, oh my gosh, these characters are so them. And I thought that was cool, like how you can, and there's so many opportunities in Cats where people can slip into those roles. And yeah, so I guess it started when I was like in other shows and I would just see being like, oh, you could play this part really well. Like you would play a great Alonzo, you'd play a great Carbuckety, like, oh, you're such a Skimble, like you're a this, you're that. And I found it fun. I would say like, I told Andy that he was a Skimble and his response was, that's the gay cat. And I was like, well, like, that's the vibe you're giving me. But he actually, I think like my vision of Skimble has changed throughout the revival. Like I think initially when I was introduced, it was like the gay uncle, right? But then now I feel like Skimble is just like he's like a Dapper Dan. He's like he's a different, but again, every production, like people reinvent these roles, but there's qualities of them. Like, of course, Jeremy would be Skimble because he enjoys wearing 3-piece suits in life. In life, he loves wearing a suit. So I'm like, yeah, you are Skimble. Like people come to you for advice. You're very professional. You're on time. You love wearing suits. You look sharp. Like, of course you would be that cat, right?
Has anybody ever gotten really mad at you for who you called them?
No, not yet.
Not yet. Who am I?
Maybe, I don't know. Who are you? I mean, I just met you.
I was going to say, we talked for a little bit before.
I just met you, so like, okay.
I've not thought about this. Usually I've like in detail thought about a lot of these things, and I've not thought about this one because I cannot dance, I cannot sing, so I have no ability to do any of these.
It doesn't matter.
Tests.
There's like a spirit.
That's why I haven't thought about that, because I was like, I can't ever perform one of them. So I haven't thought about the personality type. So now I'm curious what vibe I'm giving you.
Are you a Carbuckety?
I don't. That's definitely.
You might be a Carbuckety.
A cat I know very little about.
Oh, okay. I don't know. Let me like think about that. Maybe by the end of the conversation, I will have an idea. But again, we just met, so.
Yeah, I'm not going to be offended.
No, I know
that's
you
why
won't.
I love the idea that this is a party trick.
It's also like it's my dream of being a casting director one day. Like I just like putting people as parts. Like I love it. I'm like, oh, you'd play this part really well. So
super, super fun. Tell me about having been able to do 5 different characters and see the tracks from 5 different eyes. How you kind of like interpret Grizabella's story.
Whoa. How do I interpret Grizabella's story from 5 different eyes? Well, I would say, I was going to say like it depends on, it really has nothing to do with me, but I guess that would be a good actor to like change their point of view towards another cat. So like good for you for asking that. But yeah, I think that maybe Bomb Ballerina would have a very judgmental point of view towards Grizz, and Electra would have a very curious point of view, and Cassandra would have a very, indifferent, kind of observant, like, we'll see how this plays out. I know how it's going to play out, but like, I'm going to just be here for the journey. And Tantamile, same thing. Like she sees that something is going to shift, but like doesn't know quite what it is. And Victoria is so innocent, and she wants to know why this woman is shunned. and shamed from the tribe. So yeah, I think every single one, you're absolutely right, has a different point of view towards Grizz.
Whose point of view do you agree with most? Like, who are you? Like,
Here we go. You're trying to get me to agree with your point of view.
I definitely, I try to not lead anybody too far down this path because I don't, like, there's an argument for all different
I know
ways.
which cat you are.
Okay. Do you have an answer now?
You're Bomb Ballerina.
Oh, okay. That was not where I would have thought.
Okay, maybe it'll change again.
I don't know. I'm not offended. I kind of like it. Sure.
You have a very clear view of Grizz, and you're not moving on that. You're like, she does not deserve to be reborn as a new Jellicle life. And
I think if I told you the reason that I actually don't like my real rationale of why I disagree with it is very different from the thoughtful, real approaches that people have put into this. Okay. Which is where it's like, I find it fascinating because I've heard all kinds of different takes of like, here's this personality, here's this. And I saw Leona Lewis from the X Factor and I saw Judge and I thought,
it didn't work for you.
Which X Factor winner am I getting? And from that viewpoint only, I did not pick Grizabella.
Yeah, I don't blame you.
So that was how I interpreted the show when I first saw it and left. And I was like, I just saw a musical competition.
And that totally makes sense.
And I wasn't a fan of which cat was chosen based purely off of performances.
And I feel like that was us not doing our job.
Oh, see, I don't think that at all.
Really? I feel like we didn't tell the story well enough.
I think there's a lack of story.
There is so much story. There is so much story. And maybe... Tell
me the story then. Tell us the story. Tell the people the story. Oh my God. People don't know the story.
There is so much story. Like there's this tribe, right? There's this Jellicle tribe that meets in a junkyard once a year. It is like a very important night. I'm trying to compare it to something that we have. Like, I don't know, like the election maybe, or the Super Bowl, or
the season finale.
Bigger than that. It's bigger than that.
Bigger than the season finale. Even though it happens once a year.
It's like the Hunger Games, right?
It happens once a year.
It happens once a year.
Like a TV show season. Okay,
I guess. But it's like, it's so important. And they gather and they have so much pride to be a Jellicle, to be a cat, a certain kind of cat. And they know each other and they protect each other. And they have they're very arrogant. Like they're not like humble about anything. And they want to show off, and old Deuteronomy is their leader, their president, their who's the guy in Harry Potter?
Dumbledore.
They're, and Misto is Harry. And, there's this story of like every tribe member has a place and a talent and something to learn. And
wait, if Misto's Harry, Misto should win then.
No, Misto should not win.
But then who wins Harry Potter?
We're not talking about Harry Potter. Okay. I'm trying
to follow your metaphors through here.
I'm trying to relate it to Harry Potter because sometimes it gives that like kind of magic. You know how people are obsessed with Harry Potter? Like that's kind of how I feel about cats and how some people feel about cats. That's how you have like a following, right? Like people love cats.
For sure.
Yeah.
I keep going. I don't want to stop.
This night, this is such a unique Jellicle ball, right? Because something different happens. There is a lesson that the Jellicles learn, I think.
But they don't learn this lesson every other year. This is like a unique year.
This is a unique year where something different happens. And it's about forgiveness. It's about humility. It's about seeing someone that you can't relate. It's so relevant to what's happened today. It's like an experience that you know nothing about. And you don't know how that person got there, but the first thing you do is judge them and say, well, you didn't work hard enough. You didn't stay in line. You didn't do the right things. And it's like, Grizabella is clearly someone, you know, depending on who's playing it, I think if someone plays it really well, you get that from the character. Like she made the wrong choices in her life, but she also like did what she thought was best. And it's about, this night is about giving someone a chance to be reborn and giving them another life, a different Jellicle life. But it's also a celebration of the Jellicles and the moon. Like the moon is such a huge part of the night. And they keep referencing this moon that is shining on them. And like, it's very wild. It's like they get to this like wild place in the show.
So why is this
sexual.
her year? Oh yeah, well we're gonna ignore the orgy in the middle.
We don't have to ignore it. We can talk about
coming of age of Victoria. I mean, there's a lot.
Yes,
that
there's
comes
so
through
much.
all of
And
this.
then within that main event, there's McCavity, there's Demeter, there's Baum, there's Munkustrap, who's kind of like the Deuteronomy's speaker, who's like the host
He's like the apprentice
of the evening. Yeah.
He's next in line.
Yeah. And then, there's so many layers.
Why is this her year though? Like
why is it her year?
Why is it Grizz's year?
Why is it Grizz's year?
Yeah.
Because I think she shows up and she is vulnerable. Like, I hate to pull a Brene Brown, but she's like, she comes to the ball. She has the nerve to come to this event and say, I was once one of you guys. I was once a Jellicle. I remember like being young and beautiful and happy and showing off just like all of you and having my skill, which was the glamour cat, the Marilyn Monroe, the movie star. And I got in with the wrong crowd. I got in with McCavity. I just want to be loved and forgiven and know my value beyond my beauty. And like, there's so much there. There is so much there.
So I don't disagree with Grizabella's argument of a redemption story.
Okay.
Again, like if you look at the angle I took was American Idol X Factor, like, which from that standpoint I judged it differently.
Because that is not what it's about. Like, I understand that it's a talent show. You have like the Gumby cat and the Magic cat and the Train cat and the this cat. But I think that's just them kind of keeping the evening going. Like they all want to say, this is what I can do. Like there's a lot of pride there.
For sure. And I think that's not, I don't want you to think that your cast didn't tell the story, because it's definitely.
They're going to hear me talking and be like, Claire, like we did great.
Yeah, I loved it. I mean, here we are after it. And this is also parody, so this more fun to argue against Grizabella. I do think, though, again, I don't disagree with the redemption story. Where I do struggle with the redemption story is that if this is a night that is going to happen, that is like, it's the time of year, the moon, it's full moon, we're going to do this, we do this every year, and someone's going to get the victory of rebirth. And Grizabella's not even there in the beginning.
Okay, yeah.
And all of a sudden, she kind of comes in halfway through. There's already been a couple people that's competing.
She's observing throughout.
With Baby Grizz?
Well,
there's something called Baby Grizz I learned about.
Oh my God.
The opening number.
She's in the opening. I don't know what that is. Like they just needed to cut that. But no, she comes and observes the ball. She's watching the ball.
She comes though like
ball.
Later. She's not like, there's already been performances saying like, here's why I should go.
Yeah. I don't necessarily think those cats are like, here's why I should go. I think that they just are like, Munkustrap starts the evening being like, I have a Gumby cat in mind. And he's just like being like, let's start the show, kids. Like, start showing your talents, and like it will end where it ends. But I don't know. So you're saying because she wasn't there, she's like not. She doesn't.
Not that she's not eligible. I just think that there has been a couple arguments that have made me think a little bit more about it. That like old Deuteronomy's already made his decision. He's bringing her back, and this is all the whole like that's been predetermined, which then kind of bugs me a little bit because then it's like, well, then why are you making all these cats do these numbers? And it's because people pay hundreds of dollars, and you can't just have her sing memory and we can leave. Like kill Grizabella and go. We've got to give the other stuff. But that idea, I was like, okay, I kind of get that. But then if she just shows up partway through, then it's like if I'm Gus or if I'm everyone else who wants like this is my time or I'm going to go do my performance. I've already done my performance, and here's this person that ditched us is coming back. Like she should be up next year. She should be up next year. Like come put her time in.
I don't think she'll make it till next year. I think she's about to die, and this is the end of her road. This is it.
So that's how you're voting though. You're voting off of like, I guess she's not going to make it.
I'm realizing that I'm revealing my opinion right now, but yeah,
we're deep into this argument now, so we're just going to go into it now.
Just go with it.
Yeah, we're not going to ask later. We're here.
She's on her last leg. She's really just had enough. She's had enough of life, and I think she's like about to die. Like that collapse.
What about Gus?
Is like.
What about Gus?
What about Gus? Gus is so amazing. Gus has had a life full of.
Isn't he about to die though?
He is, but think about where Gus is, and think about where Grizz is. Like Gus has had a life full of rewarding stories, talking about his time as a cat in the theater, doing Shakespeare, like performing these roles of the Growl Tiger and what's the other one? I don't know. But like it's the whole company is giving him so much love and attention. Like we all just stop and listen to Gus and Jelly being like, let me tell you about this elderly cat who has palsy and is just like lived this full life, and he's proud and he's ready. He's saying, you know,
I'm done.
I've had a good life, and like I'm so thankful for these adventures I've had. Grizz is saying something different. She's saying, touch me. It's so easy to leave me and ignore me and to pretend like I fucked up and I was the one that messed up my life, but like I'm still a human under here, you know? And like it's that person on the subway that you want to ignore.
I like that better than Harry Potter. Okay.
It's that person that like smells bad and is like in your face saying, please help me. And you're like, I am on my way to work. Like I worked hard I paid my taxes to go to work. Why are you bothering me? And it's like that humility of really just hearing this woman's story. And I think old Deuteronomy wants us to learn something from this story. I think this is why it's a unique year. Like he is saying, listen to her. And maybe we can learn something about not giving it to the most talented, the most beautiful, the most loved, the most successful, and giving it to someone who actually wants a chance.
Someone who needs it.
Someone who needs it. Yes,
this
exactly.
This is the most passionate defense of Grizabella I've heard yet.
Like, am I okay? I'm about to cry.
I love it. I'm not ready to fully change, the title of the show. But I do appreciate how like into this you're getting. Oh
God, I love it.
Defending Grizabella.
Well, it also depends on who's playing it. Like I've heard some really amazing candidates. Like I've heard some really amazing Grizabellas saying this, and you feel their story. You feel they're like.
So that part I don't disagree with. Watching someone sing Memory and like passion and like it does feel like they're putting every ounce of their being into that moment is one of the best parts of the show.
Yeah. And it's truly the best part for a company member. So you turn your back on Grizz and you're supposed to turn around when it touches you genuinely. So every night it's different, right? So like Jacob Brent would say, you're going to listen to the whole song with your back turned to her. And when you feel like you can genuinely turn around and hear her, that's when you do it. And you may never turn around. You may say like, girl, it's not you. Stop crying. Like, you know, like you just may not give a shit. But like, it's a cool moment as a company member where it involves you and you have a choice.
I have a feeling you always turned around based on how passionately you defended her.
I was the first to turn around. No, not on a matinee when I'm tired.
Yeah.
I just was like, I'm keeping my back to the audience a little longer.
I appreciate the very passionate defense of Grizabella. I'm not ready to change my mind.
You shouldn't.
I do think that there is an argument for her. I've always thought there's an argument for her, but I also do kind of view this show a little bit now of like, there is the beauty piece of it. There's just like how it is a very deep and thoughtful piece that like, if you think about all the other pieces, then there's also this interpretation where you can just be like, okay, it's an orgy. It's coming of age. All these cats are basically screwing around with each other. There's one that's like basically sexually abusing two or three of the other ones. He's going to try to kidnap his brother and murder his brother. And by the way, we're going to murder a cat at the end. And that's
it's dark. Yeah.
It's a dark show and it's meant for children.
Yeah, I can see. Yeah. It's very like, also the sexuality of all of it is very welcomed. Like, I think some of the things I had the privilege of meeting Gillian Lynn twice in my life, and she's awesome. But some of the stories I've heard and what I've heard her say, it's like the sexuality of the piece is so welcomed and so like a part of it. You know, it's like, and maybe why some audiences love it. I also think it's cool that there's this blurred line between genders, male and female, which is why we probably had a huge following in the binary community. But like, I do think like that sexuality is something that they wanted us to feel comfortable. It's like we're animals, right? So we're not humans.
Yeah, you're cats.
Yeah, we're cats. So like there's a comfortability with this, they call it the sensual clump, which is an orgy.
Which is an orgy where you're rolling around on each other.
Yes,
for
the
12 minutes
clump.
In the middle of the show, right?
But I think that's why I don't know. Like I think that's a really cool aspect of the show, to be honest. I think it can be uncomfortable, but it's never felt uncomfortable. It's only felt uncomfortable when like a weird director is watching me, you know, being like, whoa, she looks hot in that unitard. But it's never been uncomfortable on stage with my fellow actors. I feel like we're all just like trying to get in that place of like, you know, what would a cat, if you watch a cat, they are quite sensual. Like the way they like rub their head against a pillow or like another cat. It's beautiful. It's like, so yeah, it's strange that it's a kid's show. but it's also like, I don't blame them for marketing it as a kid's show and an adult show because they're trying to sell tickets.
Yeah. I mean, make money. You got to make the money.
Make money. Yeah.
Okay. I want to do the rapid fire still, and we've eliminated the last question because we've discussed it at length, which is if you agreed with me, which you clearly do not.
Wait, I have a question for you though. Do you think that Gus should have been picked?
I think that it depends. So this is, I'm going to dance around your answer a little bit though. I think it depends on how you interpret the show. is a huge piece of how you would choose your jellicle choice. And that's, I think, part of the beauty of the show is that there probably is, well, there's clearly at least one, there is a right answer, which I think is wrong, because the show ends with Grizabella dying every night. But if you want to say who probably has the accolades, is most deserving, is also in that older group, I think Gus is one of the easier arguments to make.
Totally.
I think if you want the redemption, Old Deuteronomy is teaching a lesson.
The boxes.
Yeah, then it's Grizabella for you. I think if it's purely performance, like a show, it's going to be different for everybody, because it's going to be really dependent on what you either interpreted or just were most entertained by. And for me, again, seeing the X Factor, I always loved that they made groups. They put people together. You know, the One Direction, Fifth Harmony, all those groups came from Old Deuteronomy, piecing them together from single shows. So I would have put Tugstopheles because I think that they are together in the first place. And I thought they were two of the more entertaining numbers. I was they win. Super fun. And so I think if you've got the X Factor American Idol voting American audience, is probably picking those two together.
But that's why this year is different.
Because it's,
that's why this Jellicle Ball is different. That's
I just
why
need to be. It sounds like I need to be invited to a different Jellicle Ball. I need to come to like season 3 Jellicle Ball.
No, you're making such a great point, though. It's like the show is presented as who has the best talent, but really, the show starts that way, but we all change as cats by the end of the show, and we expect the audience to be changed too. And that's kind of how we wrap the show up. It's like, we're not that different after all. Like, that's if you really hear the lyrics at the end.
I will tell you, if you wrote it, no, I don't disagree with you. I'm just telling you, if you go to Hollywood and you write a pilot, and as you're filming, you're just like, you know what? We're going to actually kill this cat and go with a totally different ending because this is how we're feeling today. Yeah. It's probably not going to get picked up for more episodes.
Yeah.
But I have trouble arguing against 40 plus years of success as well. So it's a very well-defined show.
I think, they thought about. I think also they probably created it and years after it's been analyzed and shifted and changed. And that's kind of like the messages that I got from it based on the people I've worked with. But like everyone has such a love for this show after doing it. Like I remember the people that I initially did the tour with, they had such a kind of entitlement about it. Like, and I remember being like, it's cats, like chill out and listen to me now. You know,
defending to the death.
I mean, just like obsessed. So I understand what this show can do to people, and like, especially being a part of it.
Say, no, Grizabella's wrong. Like, has anybody made that argument with you, or am I the only one really tackling this one?
No, you're the only one I've like ever had this conversation with, because usually when I start talking about cats, it's like cut off immediately.
You've either offended them that you called them a cat and they're just like, oh, that's not me, or they don't know what you're talking about.
And they're just like, I don't want to talk about cats.
Well, the people here who are listening do want to listen about it. I hope either that or they just are a friend of mine who have stuck through the thick and thin of this. Okay, let's do some rapid fire real quick though.
Okay.
If you've played a lot of the different cats, but if you could play any single number at any time, who would you play? I'm gonna say not Cassandra because I know that's probably your answer. So anybody else?
Old Deuteronomy.
Old Deuteronomy, I love it. So you can make sure that Grizabella is the choice
because I clearly have an opinion about this tribe.
Favorite and least favorite cat?
Least favorite. You're gonna really disagree with me. Mistopheles. Favorite. Oh gosh, I love them all. Favorite. I love Skimble.
What's the anti-Mistopheles? Like, where's that come from?
I just feel like he's like a young kid that's like super talented and special and a little entitled. And like, I'm so sick of singing his name over and over again.
Okay.
Like, I'm like, what? We're wasting time. Like,
Okay.
this is,
Okay.
anyway.
So that's clearly not your favorite song. What's your favorite song in the show?
Oh God, I don't even know. Does the overture count?
Sure. They
So
all
like,
count.
I think the beginning, I think the like, like basically the Jellicle Ball music is a lot of the overture. It's like that exciting kind of synthy, like 80s, like the audience is in the dark, like what are we about to get into?
Yeah.
And I love
scared.
that. Also the adrenaline you get as a performer listening.
Yeah, because it's the beginning. Okay,
Yeah.
I like it. I'm gonna rephrase the question here. We are now a little bit further along. I've been who was I first? I forget who you said first. Then I was Bomb. Who am I now? Who do you think I am? This is your party trick. This is like you'd have to come up and be like, all right, hey, who are you casting me as?
And I feel like I'm like, who were the cats again?
I think I have my own answer now.
Who is it? Who is your answer?
But I think it'll surprise people. So I want to hear what you say first.
Gosh. Let's see. You're not a Tugger.
No.
You're not a Gus. You're not a Bustifer. You're not a Misto. I can see some Skimble in you. I think you're like either a Tumble Brutus or a Carbuckety or a Mungo. I don't know. Who do you think you are?
So I
feel like I'm failing at the cats thing.
I was gonna say, this is your thing, not mine. This is your party trick. I don't think that this will come off for anybody who's listened to this show because I definitely I probably am more extrovert in the show than I am in real life. I'm very Midwest. And I feel like a lot of Midwest comes out of Bustifer. Just like kind of happy, go lucky there, just shows up, eats a lot, kind of hangs out and then leaves.
Do you like finery?
No, there's a lot that doesn't fit with this team though, because like there's a lot of the rest of Bustifer's track where I'm just like, no, that's definitely wouldn't be me either. But I don't feel like I neatly fit into any of these, so that's why I think you might be I think that you call people into them. I
think you might be a Pouncible.
I just don't want to be a Peter.
Like who?
Peter.
Who is Peter?
You don't know Peter?
Who's
Peter is part
again?
of the Buska.
Oh, okay. So he's in the opening.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
You're not
a Peter. You're not worthless. I will tell you that. You're not worthless.
Just as long as I'm not Peter.
You're part of the tribe.
Any other one.
You're part of the tribe. I think you're a tribe member that's like observant and curious. But you aren't necessarily trying to be the show. Like you're not trying, like you're observant, curious, and like want to be a part of the festivities, but you don't need to be the main act.
Yeah, so I wouldn't have my own song.
No, so that's why I'm saying Carbuckety or Tumble Brutus, because you offer a lot and you contribute a lot. Like, so you have tricks and you have fun and you're playful, but like you're not necessarily gonna be like, and now the main cat performance.
Yeah.
Like,
I'll take it. I think that seems right. That feels right. I'm impressed by this party trick now. Okay. 2 more important questions. What are you currently working on? Okay.
Well, I'm living in New York City again, and my next project I'm doing is I'm choreographing a music video. I'm choreographing a music video for the band Delta Ray.
Ooh, cool.
They are an awesome band based in Nashville, kind of like a Fleetwood Mac vibe. And yeah, so I'll be at the end of the month going to Nashville to choreograph and be in this music video. So I'm very excited about that.
That is very awesome. We will hopefully be able to link it into this into the description so people can see it if it's ready and live by then.
Yeah.
And how can we find you on social media?
Camp_Claire. So Camp Claire on Instagram. That's the only platform I use because that's the only one I can handle.
One's plenty.
No pun intended. But yeah, so I don't have a Facebook or a Twitter, but I am on Instagram, and I've been teaching a lot at studios. I'm teaching Broadway theater dance at a school in Philly this summer. But yeah, I plan to keep performing after this pandemic, and I'm getting back in shape right now. So I'm ready for the next job when it's ready for me. So yeah.
Well, thank you so much for coming on, defending Grizz to her death, literally to her death, and sharing your story. I mean, it's super fun to hear about the regional experiences all the way through to Broadway and everything you've done for the show and brought to the show. And I love how passionate you are about it, which makes this so fun.
Yeah. No, it was great. Anytime you want to talk about cats, I'm here for you.
We're going to have beers in New York where we just debate who is who at the bar of what cat they are.
Yeah. It's my goal to make everyone fall in love with cats. So I hope you love it a little more after this conversation. Slowly
but surely, we're convincing everyone that they need to see the show. And I'm a fan. I'm ready to go see it when it's back. Live. I want to see it live.
Yeah, we'll see if it ever makes it back to Broadway. But I hope I get to do it again. I think it'll have another
Jellicle life.
Yes, well said, Mike.
I do. I
hope we all have another Jellicle life.
I think we do. Well, thank you again for being on, and thanks everyone else for listening to this episode with Claire Camp on The Wrong Cat Died, the podcast breakdown of the catastrophe. To follow along, you can subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, or anywhere else you listen to podcasts. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram at The Wrong Cat Died, or check out our website, thewrongcatdied.com.